Hello, good evening. Hi, hi everyone. Hi Meghna, nice to see you again. Hi Surya. Hi, I'm going to be in conversation with Aravinth Kumarasamy of Apsaras Arts, um, whose company is gearing up to present Arisi Rice at the Music Academy on January 15th. This is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a long time, and also in a certain way, I've been speaking with Arvind, and I've been part of the entire, process right from the time it premiered in Singapore. So I'm really excited to be able to share this conversation with all of you. I am really hoping that Arvind has joined this conversation. I'm going to look for Apsaras Arts about how he's managed to bring this mammoth production to Chennai. And just so you all know, I'm going to reiterate that all our
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, good, good. How are you?
Very well, Arvind. Long time no see.
Not long
Okay,
time no see on Instagram.
that's true. That's true. Well, Arvind, I was just telling everyone, really about Arisi rice and how, in some sense, you've been with this baby of yours for almost 3 years now, or 4 years.
3 years.
3 years. Yeah. Arvind, I thought we could start off by, I wanted to firstly ask you that leading up to Arisi, which premieres on the 15th, right from December 30th, at an article conference and a craft exhibition at Manjal, a talk on costumes, you've been sort of hosting a whole bunch of fringe events, really to build momentum about this, and also in many ways to help people access this work. I want to understand that, is this this is not what happens in India typically, where we have so many events that help us access the work better. Could you firstly tell us a little bit about why you hosted these events, and how do these events really help us understand the very nature and the premise of the work much better?
Okay, that's a very fantastic question actually. So basically, most of these works, uh, not just what we do, but mostly what everybody does, has a lot of making of it, and there's a lot of detailing that goes into. But everything is then compact into the 90 minutes or 100 minutes or 75 minutes performance,
Correct.
and then people get to watch the performance. And in my case, I've had many people who come and ask a lot of questions. Oh, how did that happen? How did that do? Why was that? Why was this? And then you realize that in the performance you cannot be making it a lecture demonstration, because people have come to see the performative
Correct.
element, but there's a lot of things that are gone in the making of it. So I think we thought that it would be a good idea to share some of this. Actually, the good example is the costumes, right? So a lot of research has gone in, and Mona Priyan, our principal dancer and resident choreographer, and also who has been designing costumes of Apsaras Arts for the past decade, has put in a lot of effort and research in creating them. And in terms of Arisi itself, because it brings two cultures, two dance forms together, so does the costumes brings the cultures of textile and craft together. So now,
Arvind, I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I think some setting of yours has changed. Yes, I think you brought a call or something, so it got disconnected.
okay, okay. So I said, uh, uh, don't get shared during the performance. So we thought it'd be a good idea to do this kind of. So the costume exhibition is one such thing. The other thing is, outreach is important, because what we have learned is, as artists, is that we should be also investing effort and time in audience development. Audience development.
Absolutely.
Yeah, not expect that, oh, because I'm performing at a particular venue
Just show.
which is known for performances, that people will just walk in to watch your own performance. And for us, of course, we are not in Chennai every other day, so it
That's
makes it even more important that we develop audiences for the work. And when I say develop audiences, I'm looking at taking the effort and the investment of time and resources to reach out to different demographics. Okay, people who are into craft, people who are into art, people who are into visual art, who are into poetry, who are into history, who are into culture. So they all are our dance audiences, not just dancers. So I think these are
no.
the two reasons why we thought we would do this lead up. So if you look at all the events we did, they reach out to different demographics,
Yeah.
different interest groups, I would say, and also
Yeah.
different part of Chennai, so that we also bring Arisi to their part of Chennai, so that we draw the crowd back into Music Academy where the final show will happen. So this is the two reasons, Akila, that we thought we would do these lead-up events. Yeah.
Uh, Firstly, I want to say that to hear the word outreach in the context of the arts itself is super refreshing, and it's a notion that dancers or the dance companies in India really don't like talk about as articulately as you have. So, firstly, kudos to you on that. Secondly, Arvind, in the world that we live in, why do you think making of the behind the scenes, the making, and all of this really needs to be documented? And I do know that as a company, Apsaras Arts is really invested in documenting, in ensuring that all of the behind the scenes, the making of it is really, really like documented. Why do you think in the world that we live in, especially now, this is very important?
I think I really don't know whether the world today is glued to this stuff, but we had when we present our performances in Singapore, normally we would have a post-show talk. Okay, and a lot of people ask a lot of questions during post-show talk on the making of it and why this was done and why, what was the reason for this. So we realized that, documenting this uh, for not just for us as artists and not for the company to keep it as archive, but more to share with people who are interested. So we, Apsaras Arts in the last decade, I would say, has started to have rasikas who don't come just to get a performance and walk away happy with the performance. They want to come because they feel, oh, I learned something today that I didn't know before, right? So I think that's the curiosity that draws people to our shows. So they want, I didn't know that, so I just learned something. So that becomes very important because we can't make a show, a performer select them. So behind the scenes, sharing information, making of it becomes important because our audiences who are following our work, or I would call them our fans, are actually looking for something to know. So I still remember that many years ago when we did a production on Angkor Wat, we actually did a pre-runner for the show called Glimpses of Angkor, which we did it in 8 months before the actual show happened. So there were audience who came for it. We did just one segment which didn't really even appear in the show later, but it was a forerunner for the whole research we were doing. And then finally the show happened. And then during the post show, I had people say, oh, we came for your glimpses of Angkor, and then we knew you were going to do Angkor. We actually flew out to Angkor Wat. We went to see the place so that we can come and enjoy the show better and be better informed. So then we realized that we have a different type of audience today in the world that we live in, who are also invested, not just to watch the performative element, but to understand more about it. So they want to learn about humanity, they want to understand about history, or they want to understand about culture. So not just dance, yeah, and music.
Um,
So I think that's the reason.
Yeah, and in many ways, Arvind, all the words that you used, culture, history, humanity, these are all really, really crucial words, especially in the context of Arisi. right? In from the your concept note says that it's really a cross-cultural and multidisciplinary, but we'll talk about that later. I want to talk about how the very premise of it being about identity and rice, it really has the potential of, it cuts through barriers of hierarchy, caste, privilege, all of those, right? And cultures and countries of Asia. And really, this linkage that we all have by virtue of sharing this grain of life called rice. I want to just ask you a little bit about how does this idea, this metaphor of rice, really manifest in the work?
So when we look at the work actually tries to talk about three important narratives or the messaging that we are worked around. There's a lot about rice that you can do, but of course everything can't be done in a 75-minute show. Yeah, so you have to distill them. So the
Yeah.
first of all, what we realized that Apsaras Arts performs 99% of the time to urban audiences. We perform in urban cities, we perform in art centers, and we are not performing in the villages. Yeah. So
Yeah.
our audience are actually our younger audiences are urban born, urban brought up kids, and it's so odd and strangely, I met a few educationalists who told me that nowadays young urban kids are not in touch with the reality of the nature of the world, especially food security, food consumption, food manufacturing, and many had said, "Oh, where does rice come from?" They said, "Oh, it comes from a packet in supermarket," but they didn't understand that what it takes to reach the supermarket, right?
Right.
So I even had a parent who told me that they from an urban city they brought their child to the village, and the child for the first time saw a cow being milked for milk, and the child started crying because the child had always seen the milk carton, never knew where the milk came from, right? So I think we thought it's important to talk about the story of rice
Yeah.
cultivation, because rice
Yeah.
cultivation is not instant. In the world
Right.
of instant noodles and instant coffee that we live in, rice is not instant, right? So it takes a long gestation period and the long hardship that the farmers go through to cultivate rice. And it's nothing is predictable. There could be a drought, there could be a flood, there could be a hurricane, and they have to go through that whole process to finally put that grain as rice on our plate. So I think that is one thing that we thought we wanted to share. But I think what is more important for us in this whole show is to share about rice culture. So rice as a culture that we Asians live, and in fact,
Yeah.
what I realized was that rice unites
Mm.
Asia. So whether you are a Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, Indian, Thai, Cambodian, Sri Lankan, rice is so important, and it's something that is staple.
Mm.
But more important, not just food, but it's also a culture that brings it. So from birth to death of a human life, rice
It,
features in every single step
abs-
of our growth
yeah.
and our progress
Also, like
in life.
milestone,
Yes.
right? It's a milestone mark.
Milestone marker, and it also is quite auspicious if you take. I mean, we though we consume dal and wheat and other pulses and cereals, rice has a very
Right.
special importance
Yeah.
as an auspicious
Yeah.
grain. And coming to Bali, I mean, in Bali being a Hindu island, every Hindu temple in Bali, when you visit the temple, the priest doesn't give you vibhuti or chandanam or kungkumam. He actually puts a few rice grains on your forehead, and that's the blessing, and that's achada that we also have, but we only use it for weddings and
Yeah.
special occasions. That is on a daily basis. So rice culture and many cultures. So we have a very important tradition in India, in many parts of India, when a new bride walks into her new home, she carries with her a tumbler of
Rice.
rice, and in some places she kicks the rice so
Yeah.
that the house gets abundance of rice. And I was surprised to find out that the Chinese bride also carries rice when she goes into the
Oh, wow.
home.
Wow.
So the rice is so universally auspicious and so
Yeah.
universally celebrated. And so we thought we'll talk about the rice culture. And rice culture is not just about feeding the child or giving Arisi to send a departed soul to a better place, but it's also used to learn alphabets. It's used to for blessing. There's so many things that rice is day and day part of our life, and we took it for granted.
Yeah.
So I thought, so this show talks about these two elements. The third element, which probably should be a concern to India, but it kind of concerned me in Singapore, is that Singapore being an urban city and we have very shortage of human resources to build our infrastructure buildings and skyscrapers. So we have a lot of foreign workers who come from India, let's say, who actually come and build our tube trains and build our metros and skyscrapers. And many of them come from Tanjavur, the womb of rice cultivation of India, not just Tamil Nadu, right? And when I asked those youngsters who are working, who's back in the field plowing, they used to tell me, my father. How old is your father? He's 60 years old. Who's going to plow after him? Oh, we don't know. I have come here. My brothers have gone to Dubai. Somebody has gone here. So it started to question us that what's the sustainability? I mean, 3 generations from now, whether we will even have rice to cultivate. And this story is not just a Tanjavur story. It can be a Thailand story, a Cambodia
Yeah.
story. Anywhere there's migration, urbanization, and globalization of cities, this is happening. So I think we wanted to tell that part of the story in a very subtle.
Disciplinary. Could you just shed some light on these two words and how they actually sort of play out in the production itself?
Okay, so cross cultural is quite will be quite evident because it's a Balinese and Bharatanatyam collaboration,
Yeah.
and that cut across everything that we do, whether it's the music that you will hear, the narrative that the script is hooked on, or the dance forms of Balinese and Bharatanatyam coming together, or the textiles and craft that you will see as costumes and visual imagery, and of course music. Yeah, so this is going to be a cross cultural. And for music, you're going to hear musicians from not just from Bali and India. When I say India, I say it very deliberately because instead of Carnatic veena, we'll have a sarod, which is taking the place of a veena. So you will hear for the first time beautiful Carnatic ragas played on a
Wow.
sarod, which is very rarely heard. So when I say sarod, it's not Hindustani music because Bharatanatyam is pretty much hooked on Carnatic music. So the sarod is going to be playing Carnatic ragas. And then, of course, you have the Balinese range of musicians, not just the gamelan, the percussion, but more important, the ketchak human voice element, of where they recite syllables, which is not really our Konokol. It's much more complex than our Konokol because there are 60, 70 musicians at the same time reciting various syllables in different punctuations and different gaps, and the combined effect then is what you will hear. So these are going to all come as a cross-cultural. But when I said, when we realized that rice unites Asia, then why we are just doing Bali and in India? Because India can represent South Asia. India can represent Sri Lanka and the rest of Indian subcontinent. Bali can represent Southeast Asia to a certain extent. What happens to North Asia? What happens to Korea, Japan, and China? Right? But it's very hard to bring their dance forms together because they are in a different pedagogical style. Balinese dance has its roots to Natya Shastra,
Yeah.
so it's easy to bring Bharatanatyam and Bali together. So we decided to bring in the Singapore Chinese Orchestra to represent North Asia, and so they can actually play, given the score, they can actually play Indian ragas. So they play Indian ragas. So you're going to hear the instruments of Chinese musicians, like the erhu, the pipa, the gucheng, the yangqing. Yangqing is the cousin of our santur. Okay, so you will hear them play these ragas for Bharatanatyam and Balinese dance. So that's the cross-cultural element in terms of what you see. But when you talk about multidisciplinary, we took that word very serious in Arisi. Because normally for Bharatanatyam, Bharatanatyam performance. Even we have been doing that for a long time, where we say, okay, we want a music and we choreograph. But this time we thought the music is a discipline by itself. It's an art form by itself. It can have its own leg to stand,
Yeah.
and not to be accompanying for the dance, but not to
But
overpower the dance, but stand side by side. So the choreography and the music are going to stand by side, hold hands together. So the investment in terms of what has gone behind the thought process of making the music is as important as how much we worked on the choreography. Then comes visual. So as much as music is important, the choreography is important, so does the costuming is important. And we are lucky that our resident choreographer himself performs and also designs costumes, so we didn't have to lose anything in
yeah.
translation. So then you see there are cross multidisciplinary. There's a music track, there is a pillar of dance choreography and vocabulary movement. Then you have costuming, visual, and then you bring together the multidisciplinary of videography. Because when we want to tell the stories of these migrant workers who are left Tanjavur, we actually worked with a documentary filmmaker in Singapore whose films are shown in Cannes in France. And he took it in two documentary style. He went and spoke to the migrant workers, asked them why they left their Tanjavur, why they are working here, what made them leave, and then went back to Tanjavur and spoke to their families, went to the villages. So that narrative will come along with the show. It's just small clips, but it's very interesting that they get. So all these different disciplines, which are art forms by themselves, are coming together in the show. So that's the importance we gave for to be true multidisciplinary, not just make it a buzzword. Yeah.
Fantastic. Arvind, do you think that after engaging with this production and really sort of, like staying with it for 3 years now, do you feel that your relationship with rice has changed in a way that, that because you've understood so many contexts to it, that is the sociological, the socio-political, the socio-economic, the cultural, the auspicious aspect of it, all of this, how has it sort of affected your own relationship with it? And what would you think that by virtue of watching this, what could I take away as an audience member? Or what is your intent for me really to like go home with?
I think okay, you have two questions in that one question. So I think the creators of Arisi, I think are not done knowing everything.
Yeah.
It's a learning
Yeah.
journey. So even now we'll be getting it ready to be presented in Chennai. It's the first international premiere of taking it out of Singapore, and we are learning a lot again about the work, and that keeps us exciting. The process of making it happen makes you learn more. So I think that's one important thing. I think what Arisi will try to impress upon the audience is anthropology of humanity, of the humans who make rice, the humans who put rice on our table, the humans, us who consume rice, the humans, us who use it for cultural and markers of milestones in our life. So these are things that are generally taken for granted or not. So I think it's going to be an anthropological journey to understand about our own selves and people who make rice for us, because I'm assuming that 90% of the audience who are going to be sitting in the music academy on Monday are not coming from the farming land, so they might have enough. But I'm talking about the younger generation. They must have drove past Tanjavur and seen the green paddy fields or read about it on Google. But I think we are trying to bring them closer to the humans who are making that rice for us, and we as humans are consuming it. So what our relationship with the humanity, and most importantly understanding the people behind the rice, people who make the craft, because the people who make. So I think that's the main idea that we are trying to bring, and very importantly the people behind the dance and the music, because it's again all human. There's no machine music, right? It's all human produced music. And for us to sit together with the Balinese, with the language barrier, okay, I mean, none of us from Singapore can speak Balinese or Bahasa Indonesia, and they can't speak Tamil. Of course, we can use English, but English is not really a good language when you talk about, Indian performing arts. But we were
Yeah.
able to communicate to each other and transcend each other with the language of art. So how did that happen? So the audience will get to see the manifestation
Of
of that has
collaboration.
happened through these conversations of art.
Fantastic. Arvind, you've always been like really pushing the creative envelope. Would you say that you've really hit the ball out of the park with this production? Would you think of it as one of your most challenging productions in terms of the many, I mean, even though it seems like a simple, humble grain of life that you're talking about, the kind of work that has gone into creating this sense of detailing and this sense of cross-cultural, multidisciplinary aspects of things, would you say that this would be one of amongst your most challenging productions?
I think the answer to that is through every production. I think we are trying to learn and better ourselves, push our own barriers, yeah, to seek newer horizons. When I say not just go to Bali, literally new horizon, but literally pushing the production values, the structure of how we create things. So in Arisi, what's interesting is that I think it has become quite evident that you have a solid creative team, right? A solid creative team who are working and bringing their own talents to the table, and who are understanding what we are going to message to the audience, and have that common understanding of saying, this is what we want in the audience to get out of IDC. So what do we do for costume? So what do we do for music? So what do we do for the script? How the dramaturg works with it? What does the choreography have to say? And even each dancer who's performing understands that this is what we are trying to communicate. So I think this is something I would say that we have pushed our own barrier by trying to bring everybody to the table, instead of saying that, okay, musicians just play the score, dancers just dance the choreography. So that everybody is invested in it. But the creative team is important. And actually some of the things that in the learning journey, like we had the opportunity to work with Dr. Nandita Krishna, who has published many journals and articles and even books on rice culture of Asia. I know there was so much that we learned from her. I mean, I didn't even know that there is a goddess called Ponni Amman. I know we eat Ponni Arisi, but I didn't know there's a goddess called Ponni Amman, and she's venerated in the peripheries in certain parts of Tamil Nadu. So, you learn things. I mean, a goddess. And because when we went to Bali, we were introduced to the rice goddess, Devi Sri. So they have a goddess for rice. Oh my God, we thought, oh, there's a goddess for rice. But we have one too, called Ponni Amman. So there are things that so I think having a creative team who are brilliant to not on their own work, because people all can be brilliant, but can they work together and can they bring out the common message that we want to give the audience, and bring their own craft to the table and work together with each other. So I think this is something that I would say Arisi tries to aspire. But as I said again, when we are now doing it again for the international premiere, we are learning again. The creative team is learning again, because it's a different venue, it's a different setup. So how do we readjust, adapt, and be nimble on our feet so that we can, rise to the occasion?
Right.
Yeah.
Rise to the occasion, literally. And also, importantly, Arvind, I think I'm just thinking about it just in a very sort of joking way, but also like important way, that rice is also consumed differently in different parts. Like we eat it with sambar and somebody else eats it with the Thai curry. So I suppose it also like takes on different shapes. I just want to ask you one final question before we wrap this conversation, which is really about how mammoth has it been for you to be able to bring this production to India? Traveling with it, making it work, just for us to understand how hard it is for you kind of dream big always and somehow make your dreams happen. So kudos to you. But really, like, surely it couldn't have been easy. So would you just want to tell us a little bit about how you made
I
it
think
work?
I think as artists, we pray a lot to Saraswati, right? And we hope that she blesses and shows the way to wisdom shows the ways to learning. I mean, wisdom is a bigger word to use here, but we learn, knowledge, yeah, learn. But we always have to look, where is Lakshmi? She is not with us, So bringing this production to anywhere in the world requires a lot of effort to gather the funding to bring it. Okay, so that was, I think, the most daunting and the mammoth work to do. But as Birju Maharaj always says, he says, you do your riyas and you pray to, you work your, you keep to your work committed and passion, and it with full dedication. Saraswati will go and pinch the ears of Lakshmi and say, hey, please help this artist. So maybe that happened. It was also for us almost like last minute that our Minister of Culture in Singapore thought, okay, we will help Arisi to go to India, and they say support, and we are also grateful for Usha Marthi Subramaniam endowment to actually make Music Academy present such a mammoth work. So we are grateful to these two organizations. I mean, the Usha Marthi Subramaniam family and the Music Academy, and the Singapore Consulate in Chennai, who actually, put up the case to our Minister of Culture saying it's good to bring it to Chennai, and why it should come to Chennai. So I think that is the most daunting task. But then, of course, you have logistic issues of bringing it here. The entire team has to come. And of course, another daunting is that we are not in Esplanade. It was created for a particular venue. We have to reimagine it for a new venue, and people have seen videos of that show, snippets here and there. So the audience will come with expectation. So how do we try to meet that expectation to the best of ability we can? So these are the daunting tasks. And of course, practicing with the team, because now the Balinis have arrived, the dancers from India and Singapore are here. How do we all practice together, which is, I think, the challenge in any production. But because it is international in terms of artists coming from 3 locations, it makes it even more complicated that way. So these are the daunting efforts. But then through this we learn. Oh, now we can do like this way. Oh, we didn't know when we did it the first way. Now maybe we learned something new. So it keeps, I think, the team excited to learn. Yeah. And for the dancers, I think it's a beautiful opportunity to again bond with their Balinese peers and get to know another culture, they're all dancers. Whether you're a Balinese or a Bharatanatyam, you're still dancers. You still have the life struggles as a dancer. And I think for them to meet their peers, to get a self-assurance, oh, I'm not the only one in Chennai thinking of, what am I doing there? So I think there's a lot of affirmations and a lot of positivity of meeting together. So I think that has happening again, which is a good thing. Yeah.
That's fantastic, Arvind. I really wish you a lot of energy and a lot of strength. And really, my best wishes to you for a fantastic, grand international premiere of Arisi. I'm sure Arisi is going to rise and shine on the 15th. I just want to reiterate to everyone who's watching it and everybody who will watch it later that this is an all-our welcome show. And therefore, please come in early and get your seats. And together, let's celebrate this grain of life. Thank you, Aravind, and thank you to the entire Apsaras Arts team and to the Balinese dancers, Mohana Priyan, Sai Shravanam, so many fantastic people who are involved in this. Wishing this the production the very best. Thank you, Aravind.
Thank you, Akila and Alap, for having this conversation. It was a pleasure talking to you again. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.